Something amazing has happened. Wizards of the Coast has taken a card that's 100% wrong and somehow created near perfection. Greetings, owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles. If you are not already aware, I do have another channel. It is a Magic lore channel, and Sunday is lore release day. So, in a couple of hours from now, 6 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the best time, is when that video releases. So come on over to my other channel and check it out. I'm not even going to do the whole, I wasn't supposed to be here today, because what the plan was, I was supposed to take Sundays off. But at the end of the day, I really like making videos for you guys. I'm having a great time, and so many cool things happen, especially in regards to Magic, that I can't avoid yammering on about it. I'm not going to take a day off when we can spend time talking about a crazy, insane-o dragon that is 100% wrong and yet perfection in the same breath. So, let's dive into the card. We have the Leyline Tyrant, okay? This is 2 red and 2 for a 4/4 flying dragon that says you don't lose unspent red mana as steps and phases end. And when Leyline Tyrant dies, you may pay any amount of red mana. When you do, it deals that much damage to any target. Okay, so this is the baseline that we're dealing with. So I'm going to explain to you everything that feels wrong about this, and then we're going to talk about why it's actually an incredibly amazing card. Okay, so first of all, in the most simple context, this doesn't really feel like a dragon. Let's be real. It's got a dragon's name, okay? But it doesn't feel like a dragon. Look at the artwork. This thing feels like a big, bulky, weird barge creature with these giant spines jutting up out of its back. Yeah, I mean, it flies like a dragon. I do find the variation of like a hammerhead shark head design to be pretty interesting. It's very visually striking, right? When you look at it, it literally does look like they took a hammerhead's snout head part and rotated it for this dragon. So when it opens its mouth, you can see these, like, I don't know, man, it kind of, in a way, it feels like an ineffective evolution adaptation. It's very striking, but at the same time, it feels like it would limit what the dragon would be able to, like, take bites at, right? Because those pieces would end up bonking into everything. So from a, like, sleek dragon standpoint, the fearful dragon, you see this thing, it looks like it slowly flies through the air, and this thing doesn't, like, breathe fire in the way that we're used to. So it doesn't feel like a threat that way, right? So it also, size-wise, it feels small. 4 mana for a 4/4 flyer is obviously nothing to sneeze at in terms of mechanics from a creature standpoint. However, from the standpoint of a dragon, it feels small. It feels like a drake, you know, or like a wormling or something, as opposed to a full-on dragon. So having it being called like a tyrant, it just feels like a big, like, herpty-derpty kind of goofy non-dragon. So that feels wrong from the get-go, right? Like, when you look at it from that perspective, just on the surface, he doesn't instantly, like, scream dragon to you. Then you have the fact that it allows you to carry unspent mana over from phase to phase. Now, that is not a common ability. As far as I recall, there's only really 3 cards that do this on a grand scale. There are some cards that will, like, I make a mana and that mana doesn't go away. But in terms of just stopping you from losing mana at the end of each phase, really it's Omnath, Upwelling, and now this dragon. And the Omnath and the dragon are tuned to particular colors and those colors only. And let's be real, hanging on to mana feels mostly like a green ability. It actually feels like the opposite of a red ability, which is another reason this card falls into that 100% wrong category, right? You have a scenario where you look at it and go, okay, wait, red is the color of passion and immediacy. Red is not the color that goes and puts money in the bank to get, like, invest. You know what I mean? Red's the one that goes and blows its money on all kinds of dumb nonsense. Check out my rocking guitar. Like, it's about instant gratification. That's what red's about, right? So the idea of saving mana up doesn't feel red. Red has spells that are rituals like pay 2 red, get 3 red right now. Pay 3 red, get 5 red right now. Use it or lose it is actually the way that red feels like it operates most of the time. Look at the way most red card draw works. If it's not, you have to discard to get it. Red card draw works in a way where it's exile, use the card now. So red is now, not later, right? So you've got this kind of scenario where that doesn't feel right. And then you move on to the final ability and you go, okay, so this is the fire breathing, but it can only do its fire breathing damage ability when you lose the dragon? That makes no sense. You know what I mean? Almost every dragon's, not every single one, but almost every dragon's ability is keyed into it attacking, right? So you will have the most traditional and long-lasting, like, obvious thing for dragons is fire breathing. And this is represented in a number of different ways. Sometimes they go with variations like lightning breathing or whatever, which is really cool. But overall, fire breathing is usually a straightforward concept that's done in one of 2 ways. The first way is literally just cranking up the creature's power. Pay a red, this creature gets +1/+0. Or pay 2, this creature gets +2/+0. Whatever it is, it's basically like pump red mana into this, it will breathe fire out, which results in an increase in power. The other variation of, like, fire breathing is when this swings, do damage to a target. So you can do 3 damage to this target, or in case of that more recent crazy dragon, can't remember his name right now, but regardless, basically when you swing with him, you get to have him fire breathe on 3 different targets. That's pretty impressive and feels standardized like a dragon would, right? But this dragon doesn't do that, right? It just says, when the dragon dies, you can feed red mana into it at that point, and then you get to do 1-shot fire breathing, right? Normally, fire breathing is a repeatable innate ability of a dragon. Its ability to breathe fire is endless. It can do it over and over and over. I mean, this is probably a carryover from Dungeons and Dragons. Dungeons and Dragons does have limitations where certain dragons can only use their breath weapons 3 or 5 times a day. But regardless, the point is, these are usually repeatable effects, not a one-shot, and usually tied in to the attack phase. So again, this feels 100% wrong. In reality, when you look at this, the only thing that actually fits with the dragon is the fact that it has flying. But when you put everything else together, to me, it essentially makes the card 100% wrong from that perspective. But when you take the dragon just as its own concept, it actually becomes near perfection as just an amazingly rare dragon. I've talked about this in the past, about how we are planeswalkers, and the idea behind Magic originally, now it's been kind of put to the wayside, where now it feels like we mostly, like, we'll have a world and we'll explore that world through the eyes of other planeswalkers as well as the world's inhabitants. But the way the Magic was originally built was, you and I are planeswalkers, and we're going to travel to different planes of existence looking for exotic beasts and rare magic and stuff like that that we can use in our journeys of conquest or whatever it is we want to do, right? Depending on what type of planeswalker you are, you're going to have different kind of goals. So to me, this dragon reads as like a super rare breed of not even really technically a dragon, but so unquantifiable that you can't really call it anything else. I mean, the design of it is, it really feels like something that would probably soul around on Ikoria, if I'm being real, but they didn't put it in Ikoria. So regardless, the idea is like, you're a planeswalker and you found this super rare dragon type where instead of being like all these other greedy style dragons that want treasure or want meat or whatever, this dragon is greedy for mana and in a way you've never encountered before. Like, imagine finding one of these beasts, right? And then you realize, wait a minute, like, you look at it and go, okay, this thing doesn't breathe fire. Like, what's the deal? But it starts to draw in your red mana. You realize you can actually, like, your red mana that you call into existence. Basically, you start tapping in your mountains and you draw the red mana to you. And just as a side effect, you notice that this dragon has an affinity to it. And somehow, through the presence of the dragon alone, it allows you to maintain that mana. Like, essentially, that mana gets drawn into the dragon. The way I view it is when you look at the dragon's artwork, you can see this, like, red energy along its neck. And to me, that reads like you're using this dragon like a giant mana battery. You can essentially just draw all this power from the mountains, and this power can flow into this dragon. And unlike any other dragon, when you call on the power of the mountains and flow it into a dragon, the dragon uses that immediately to increase the power of his breath weapon, whatever it is. That magic power gets used instantaneously. But this is the one breed of dragon out there. And it's such a bizarre beast that the only thing you can think of is to call it a dragon, because it draws in all this mana and holds it in for the entirety of the dragon's life. It can hold ever increasing amounts of power. Through all of your experimentation, you found that no matter how much mana you feed into this dragon, it can still continue to just take more, like a desert where you're just pouring water from a garden hose out onto the desert and the ground is just like more. And so the dragon builds up this power and builds up this power. And then if the dragon gets destroyed, all that power gets released in a massive burst of destruction that you can actually focus on whatever you want. That huge amount of red mana that's coalesced inside the dragon now funnels out in a blazing fury of power that will destroy any target of your choice. It doesn't matter what it is. What an amazing find that would be. Like, that's so cool. So this card, it really doesn't feel like a dragon when you pull it apart, but when you put it together, it just feels like an insanely rare breed of dragon that a very particular type of red mage planeswalker would seek out, right? Like, it's got this element of delayed gratification that just doesn't exist in red. And overall, it's such a really cool card. And if you want another really cool card that's obvious to combine with it, but you may not know because it's older, Braid of Fire, dude. Oh my God, this card's nuts. Like, you got to understand, back in the old days of Magic, we had mana burn. So if you had mana that was unspent at the end of a phase, not only did you lose the mana, but you took damage for the amount of unspent mana. So if you got 5 mana but only spent 3 of it, you're looking at taking 2 damage at the end of the turn. Now, that was a corner case rule in Magic the Gathering that only led to feel-bad situations. Yes, it was flavorful. The idea of the magical powers are so strong that if you don't direct them somewhere, they'll burn through your body and it literally causes damage to you. That's a cool concept, but mechanically, it didn't add much to the game, and it was almost always just a way to make new players feel bad. You know, you get hosed by mana burn enough times until you realize, oh yeah, I got to be more careful with my mana. So that they got rid of mana burn. So Braid of Fire was a way weaker card back when mana burn existed, right? Because it's like every upkeep, you're getting increasing mana. It's got cumulative upkeep, which means during your first upkeep, you add a red mana to your mana pool. The second turn, it's 2, 3, and so on. It was a very interesting way to take cumulative upkeep. Cumulative upkeep is ever increasing upkeep, but normally it's something negative, like pay a life or pay a mana. So then you're paying 1 mana, 2 mana, 3 mana, and it just keeps going up until you finally can't pay it anymore. But with Braid of Fire, it kind of flipped that idea on its head, where it's like, you can get increasing amounts of mana, but only during your upkeep, so you have to use it during your upkeep, and you're looking at a bunch of mana burn if you don't use it, right? So it kind of kept Braids of Fire from being too insanely strong. Now, you've got a scenario where once you've got the dragon out, you can carry your mana over from the upkeep all the way through, and each turn, Braid of Fire is just going to be banking up that mana. So it seems like a really fun thing to combine with this dragon. This dragon feels like the type of threat that you have to deal with immediately, because if you don't deal with it immediately, it's just going to be a ever-growing problem. And it's perfect for red in terms of, if you like red, a lot of the time you'll be sitting there going, I don't get to use all my mana. Like, red is like, accelerate, accelerate, accelerate. Okay, now I've got a bunch of men and nothing to do with it. So the dragon helps with that scenario as well. Either way, thought it was a really exciting card. Wanted to talk about it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. It's not going to be too long from now until that premiere happens over on Fantasy Geographic. Stuff is going insane. We've got a story that features Karn, Joyra, Teferi, the Phyrexians, all kinds of awesomeness. It's over half an hour long. So come on over because I'll be there during the premiere commenting and talking to you guys. Look forward to seeing you there. If you like what I'm doing here, like, comment, subscribe. It's all fantastic for the channel. YouTube loves all that. If you love what I'm doing, hop on my Patreon. And I'm out of here, my friends. I will see all of you tomorrow.